What's going on, everybody? Tej back again with another video, and today we're talking about my Week 18 NFL Power Rankings. I want to wish Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2023. Hopefully this is a great year of prosperity and growth for each and every one of us. Great weekend of football. I mean, the college football playoff was fantastic. Sunday was entertaining. We also got Donovan Mitchell dropping 71 on Monday. I did want to start by, prayers up for Damar Hamlin. The only update we've seen basically is that he, had a cardiac arrest, had a heart attack there on the field. So really scary way to kind of end a fantastic, 3-day weekend of sports, but thoughts and prayers. But because of that, not a whole lot of movement towards the top of these power rankings. So if you wanted to click out, and the week's not fully done, I totally understand. But prayers up with Damar Hamlin. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this. In a year where we had the Tua Tagovailoa Thursday Night Football situation, I thought that might be the scariest thing we see on field this year. But yeah, that was unlike anything we've ever seen. And it was an unprecedented night for the NFL. So yeah, continued prayers and thoughts for Damar Hamlin and his family. I mean, he's been a really good player this year, and that was as scary an incident we've ever seen in the NFL. So no real easy way to segue from there, but hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you're new, subscribe, comment your power rankings. Let's start talking about mine. Got the Chicago Bears, the Broncos not moving. The Bears got pretty well handled against Detroit. I will say it's another week where I've been pitching on this channel over QB rushing props against the Detroit Lions, and Justin Fields is 105 yards in the first quarter. By the way, his rushing props was like 70.5 yards. Like, it was no slouch. It was no low number to surpass. But Justin Fields kind of feels like Superman trying to lift the city up out of the ground, and right now that roster's not ready to win. The Broncos, they kept it close. Resurgent of sorts. But I think part of that's also it's an AFC West game. The Broncos don't really have much to play for. They can kind of just go at, a team like Kansas City with a true target on their back and just try to play spoiler. So, didn't really have anything to lose, but hey, it's as good as we've seen Denver play, but nonetheless, a loss is a loss, so I'll keep them here at 31. Maybe you could flip them in the Colts. I mean, the Colts, when the Giants are pushing you around, the Giants have secured a playoff spot, so let me not talk smack about the Giants too early on in this video, but the Colts didn't look like an NFL team compared to went up against the Giants. I mean, that's rough. And then you had this Nick Foles injury. You're seeing Sam Ehlinger. It was cool to see Jeff Saturday win that first game as the interim head coach. But everybody who said he was a sacrificial lamb was spot on. I mean, this guy was just brought on to. It's a baseball analogy here. Sometimes there's games where you just put a bullpen arm in. You're going to give up a ton of runs. He's going to walk a few people, but somebody's got to be out there. Someone's got to be on the mound. Someone's got to eat the ERA. And Jeff Saturday is that for the Indianapolis Colts, just with losing instead of an earned run average. We got the Texans here at 29, down a spot. It wasn't necessarily pretty against the Jags. I still think this team has a decent amount of spunk. But bottom four here are all pretty interchangeable, in my opinion, based off of how you view these teams. And honestly, you could lump the Cardinals in there. If it's David Blau, I don't want to watch, I'm not interested. So you could lump the Cardinals in there. I mean, it's just not a team that's, very good right now. But I'm going to be talking about the Cardinals later on this week here on this channel, so stick around. Then we get to the Falcons, up a handful of spots. They beat the Cardinals 2019. Nothing crazy. It's not like the Falcons solidify themselves as the best team, or way better than the Cardinals. They beat David Blau by a point. So it's not like the Falcons are world beaters here, but I do think this was the best game for Desmond Ridder, which when I say baby steps, I mean literal baby steps from one game to the next. So it's improvement, but we'll have to see what Week 18 holds, because this Falcons team's got a really interesting situation. I mean, if you're Arthur Smith, QB's got to be tempting, right? Because if you're picking at the top of the draft in 2024, I have a hard time thinking Arthur Smith's still a head coach, right? Like, if this team goes 3-14, 4-13, 5-12 even, and they have a position in 24 draft to get a Drake May, to get a Caleb Williams, a Quinn Ewers maybe, or something like that. Arthur Smith's record at that point is bad enough to get him fired. So I don't know. This team's at an interesting crossroads, but Ridder is showing a little bit of life. And Tyler Algier, great draft pick. And that Arthur Smith run game continues to look really, really good. So there are things to be excited about if you're a Falcons fan. Raiders, Panthers, as well as the first team on the next page we'll talk about. I'm going to stay put despite the loss. Hey, the Raiders battled. And I mean, Jarrett Stidham, especially early on in the game, didn't look too bad. Like, he looked okay. So it's kind of amazing. Josh McDaniels, now has Derek Carr on the bench, and let the memes fly. He's going to be calling all the good plays now, as people like to say. But this team did show a decent amount of fight. Going up against a team that when you look at the roster, they really have no business competing with San Francisco. But Offense looked good. Devontae Adams, still the best wide receiver in football. Been saying that basically all year long, which is crazy because just Jefferson's a dog, Jamar Chase, an animal. A lot of other players. Tyreek Hill's had an awesome year. But yeah, Devontae Adams is still wide receiver one in my opinion. Panthers, yeah, they lost to the Bucs, but they were 1 quarter away from making the NFC South like the most interesting, shitty division of all time. So really close. Sam Darnold's playing okay. The run game's been solid enough. DJ Moore. I said this last week, unquestioned wide receiver one. And if you doubted me then, I don't know what to tell you now. I mean, the dude is just hoops. So they lost, but I'm going to give them some respect, keep them there at 25. Like I said, I'm going to keep the Rams in their place here at 24. Yeah, they got the brakes beaten off by the Chargers, but it's actually interesting. Quick little diatribe here. This Rams stretch with Baker Mayfield has mirrored his entire career. First game, rough to start, but an exciting finish, right? Just like his rookie year, that comeback against the Raiders. That was, year one, game one. Game two, and then year two in Cleveland for Baker, rough, bad games, bad year. And then you get to, game three where the Rams destroy the Broncos and Baker looks pretty good. Looked pretty good year three, first year with Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. And then now year four, disappointing game this week. I think the same thing could be said about how he ended his tenure in Cleveland. And then I guess next week's going to be the really interesting one. Year five, what are we getting into, game five? So probably not good if that trend continues. But yeah, the Rams, it's whatever. They spent all their money to win a Super Bowl last year. They're not a good team this year because of it. So, give and take. Commanders, I'm not going to move them. But, the one thing I guess we learned from this weekend is if Carson Wentz or Taylor Heinicke are on the roster next year, you fucked up. Sorry for the language, but there's just no other way to put this. Taylor Heinicke is really bad. And Carson Wentz is really bad. Wentz has more talent stored inside his body, but Taylor Heinicke's luck factor, and literally there's no other way to quantify it than luck. He has, going into that game, double the turnover-worthy plays, but the same number of interceptions that Carson Wentz had. Again, entering Sunday, then Wentz goes out there and chucks three picks to the Brownies. So those numbers have changed, but both of them are just bad. So if either one of them are your roster next year, I think that's a bad spot. And hey, week 18, you're eliminated. Let me see Sam Howell. As somebody who had Sam Howell as number 2 QB on his draft board, I got to see what he looks like at the NFL level. So I'm hoping to see that next week. Titans down a couple of spots. Josh Dobbs starting on Thursday Night Football. He basically got a 10-hour notice, maybe 8-hour notice. That's a tough spot to be stepped into. And he's kind of become this journeyman quarterback. He's got some mobility. I think the passing game looked better with Dobbs than it did with Malik Willis, which a little concerning there. But this team's season comes down to week 18. It's gonna be that Titans-Jags game, which I like the Jags to win. But this is gonna be the biggest game of their year. So they can certainly move up pretty quick here. Then we get the Browns. They beat the Commanders. It is kind of baffling. One of the things we talked about in the Hurry Up Offense last week. Be sure to come back for this week's episode on Thursday. I was like, there's a couple games where it's like, why is the better quarterback getting points here? And one of them was like, Deshaun Watson hasn't played great, but he's getting points against Carson Wentz. And I know sometimes that's ultimately the difference. Also, Amari Cooper, I was playing him in one of my, fantasy championships this week. 3 catches, but 2 of them go for touchdowns. Kendall Fuller, one of those is on you. What was that tackle attempt at the sideline? You just gave that man 6. So, yeah, Commanders are rough. The Browns, slightly better team, so they're slightly higher. And then we get the Steelers. Hey, solid win. If you're like an AFC North, if you're familiar, your favorite teams in that division, that game was AFC North as AFC North gets. And as a Steelers fan, to sweep the Ravens of the year, that's a big deal. A comeback once again for Kenny Pickett, 10 points in the fourth quarter, none for the Ravens. There's something to that, right? We saw Kenny Pickett really struggle in a potential comeback attempt against Miami, but against the Raiders, the Raiders defense is bad. But Raiders last week, and then you get the Ravens. Just defense been playing really, really good this week or this year in general. But get that comeback this week against Baltimore. Yeah, they're starting to show signs of life. Now, granted, I still think Matt Canada's got to go as the OC. The run game has really taken a tick in the right direction. Like Najee, is talking a bunch of smack after every play. Jalen Warren's got a couple of explosive plays in there. But, George Pickens had 4 targets and 2 catches. And even Deontay Johnson, 3 catches? There's just not enough pass game efficiency. The offense doesn't do anything to get those guys open. It doesn't help make the game easier. Get, simple throws for Kenny Pickett. And you just look at it and it's like, yeah, Kenny Pickett played well, but 165 yards or something there. But we just need to have more chunk plays. We need to be able to open it up more through the air. I'm glad they're running the ball better. They're playing against a good defense, but still, when it comes to the passing attack of the Matt Canada offense, it leaves a lot to be desired. But Pittsburgh wins, and Mike Tomlin, if they beat Cleveland in Week 18, it's another year where he doesn't have a losing record. And at that point, 17 years, and especially this season to get to 9-8. I don't think he wins Coach of the Year, but he should definitely be on that candidate list. I don't know how that really breaks out. I'm not a voter for that, so he should be somewhere in that conversation. Jets down a handful of spots. Like, look, part of this is just how the board shaked out. I don't necessarily think a 6-position slide is all that fair, but again, that's how the board worked. But yeah, this was a disappointing game. I mean, the Jets -1.5 was my lock of the week. I thought this was one that they matched up really well against Seattle, but Seahawks, even with kind of a banged up offense, found enough offense, and in a year where we've seen Justin Herbert kind of come down to earth, so to speak, with broken ribs. Yeah, Mike White as a legitimate mortal with broken ribs. Maybe that should have been a little bit more of an indicator to me that Seattle was the side to bet on here, which is disappointing. But, you live and you learn. But, yeah, the Jets offense just looked bad, man. And Mike White did not look great. So now this team is in a really bad spot. And, I mean, all the excitement around Mike White. Now you could potentially go into an offseason where it's like, yeah, Mike White's not our guy. Zach Wilson's not good. But since Mike White's not our guy, maybe Wilson can turn around. Or, I hope they explore the veteran quarterback market. I think that's ultimately their best bet to start winning pretty soon. But yeah, if Mike White ended the year on a high note, it would have been interesting to see what the rhetoric and the conversation was around him. But yeah, disappointing loss there for the Jets and a chance to really keep themselves in the playoff hunt. Saints, yeah, they won, but I'm going to keep them here. Marshawn Lattimore with the play of the game right there, that pick six against Gardner Minshew. Dalton starts the game 13 for 13, but kind of Andy Dalton fashion where it's like, yeah, that's impressive, but in like the least impressive way possible. And eventually throws a pick to kind of break that streak to open the game. So yeah, this Saints team, any given week their defense can kind of do what they did against Philadelphia. But again, that was against a backup quarterback. Gardner Minshew looked a little more mortal this week. So yeah, solid win for the Saints. They're kind of capable of doing this any given week, in my opinion. But I'm going to keep them right here at 18. 18 feels kind of where the New Orleans Saints are right now. Jags just ahead of them at 17. Yeah, I think this is a good team. Again, I think they win week 18 against the Titans. And this is the team that win the AFC South. Also, I'm going to be clipping out just something for my preseason prediction videos. I thought the Colts would win the AFC South, but then I said, if there's going to be a team that wins a playoff game, it's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, which that 4-5 matchup could be kind of interesting. So will it be the Chargers? Will it be Baltimore? We'll have to wait and see. But the Jags could be spicy. And hey, either one of those two teams, Jags or the Ravens, the Chargers or the Ravens, the Jags have already beaten both those teams. So playoffs could be a good time. Let's move on to the top half of these power rankings. I got the Giants up a spot. Again, they destroyed the Colts. Not much to talk about. Daniel Jones is just, making it work. Richard James is having games, and then it's Isaiah Hodgins who has, these really nice stretch of games towards the end of this year. Like these names that you really don't think of as like potential top of the rotation, top of the wide receiver room guys, but they're making do with those dudes right now. I said it last week. It feels like, oh man, if this team had a wide receiver one, like a Kenny Galladay, this team would be really good. Yeah, well, Kenny Galladay forgot how to play football. So yeah, they're kind of in a rocky spot here, and their playoff matchups can be really interesting. They're locked in the 6th seed, so I think they're going to potentially rest starters in week 18 since there's no real advantage or disadvantage to playing those guys. But yeah, depending on that matchup, could this team be scrappy in the wild card? That's going to be something I can't wait to find out. Patriots up a spot. They beat Teddy Bridgewater and then, half the game with Skylar Thompson. I'll give them some respect there. I think the defense looked better this week than it has in a little bit. I guess it looked okay second half against Cincy last week, but yeah, that's just how this team's going to win games, right? And then, get it done on the ground. Mac Jones looks okay in this game. Few big passing plays. Also, you get that weird, the touchdown to make it 23-14, like Miami doesn't line up over one of the wide receivers out there. At first it was Tyquan Thornton wide open, then they call a timeout, and then coming out of the timeout, there's still a wide receiver left wide open that leads to that touchdown. So some of it's also like, what is Miami doing? But hey, the Pats, took advantage of it. So give them credit, they're up a spot. Bucks also up a spot. The best we've seen that offense look all year long, which is a great sign, getting closer to the playoffs. Mike Evans, kudos to you, one, if you're in the fantasy football championship with Mike Evans on your team, because that means you must have drafted really well from beyond that point, and done some great roster management, in-season trades, free agency, waiver wire, all that sort of stuff. So kudos. But also, I feel bad for people who aren't in the championship because Mike Evans, didn't do a whole lot during the regular season, and now he goes bananas. So I am sorry, but I'm also congratulations to those who had Mike Evans win their league for him, despite being a little bit of a disappointment. But hey, 9 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons for Mike Evans. He's just quietly one of the most consistently really good wide receivers in the league. So Tom Brady looked really good this week. Yeah, I mean, just the offense all in all looked really, really, really good. And, didn't come back fashion against a Carolina team that has talent on the defensive side. So let's step in the right direction. Again, the play calling, the coaching, that's still going to be, kind of something week to week. I need to have it win me over. But, this was a really big win there for Tampa. And they clinched a playoff spot. So they're going to be the 4 seed. Seahawks up a spot again, kind of talked about with the Jets. I started to fade Seattle. It felt like that run defense was kind of falling off. And, the offense, the tackles, both rookies starting to take a step back. You're down Tyler Lockett. He ends up coming back. It just felt like a lot of the situation around Geno Smith and then the defense itself were just kind of losing some steam. But hey, what a bounce back week, and it keeps Seattle alive in the playoff mix. And now in a spot where winning you're in, right? You're going to be the 7th seed. But I kind of, the NFL gets a lot more interesting if Seattle loses. So we'll have to wait and see there. But hey, this was a step right in the correct direction, right? Way to get back on track here for Seattle. Way to kind of try to end the year on a positive note. Then we get Miami here at 12, down a couple spots. I mean, could be even lower. I mean, I don't think we see Tua for the rest of the year, but just in case, this offense does look different. I think Teddy played, okay. Some of the highest numbers of his career when it comes to average depth of target. He kind of looked like a product of this, Kyle Shanahan, disciple-esque tree. And I think there were moments where they were moving the ball well, but then you get Skylar Thompson coming in. You get that drop in I think it was the third quarter, might have been the fourth, from Tyreek Hill on the sideline, then it becomes a pick. There's a lot kind of work. I don't want to say working against the Dolphins. A lot of some bad luck, some bad bounces of footballs, and obviously the Teddy Bridgewater, broken finger. Random things like that sometimes just kind of work against you, and just didn't feel like Miami's game in a lot of ways. So disappointing. Still think the defense didn't play too bad. So encouraged by that. But yeah, I mean, this team might have just washed their playoff chances down the drain, right? 5-game losing streak to end the year. I mean, that's tough. That's a tough way to end the year. Then we get the Lions up a spot. I mean, Lions and Green Bay, we'll talk about it both here. I mean, that's a potential playing game. It sounds like Sunday Night Football, which would be awesome. But again, you need Seattle to lose that game. That being said, I don't think the Lions will roll over, even if they're eliminated. The chance to go 9-8 and keep Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs, I think would have people and Lions fans lining up the streets of Detroit the next day. So I think one way or another, you're going to get a really good game there. But the Lions, the offense continues to just be awesome to watch, right? And DeAndre Swift looked as good as he has all year. Jared Goff has another big game. I mean, it's just a good football team, right? I mean, it's kind of wild to be saying that about the Detroit Lions, but this offense in specific is clicking. The defense has really made some steps in the right direction. I know the Bears aren't really that impressive, especially as an offensive team outside of Justin Fields. But hey, the Lions put together a great game plan, and they executed at a high level, 41-10 win. That's something to be impressed by. Ravens down a spot. They lost to Pittsburgh. Division games can be kind of weird. Tyler Huntley is not the guy. I mean, this Week 18 game does have some playoff positioning value. Because if I'm Baltimore, I want to be the 5 seed trying to take on Jacksonville versus being the 6 and get Cincinnati, Buffalo, or Kansas City. Give me the Jags in that draw versus the other 3. That's not to say the Jags bad, but it's Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincy. I'll take anybody else basically than those 3. So there is something to play for. So I'm hoping to see Lamar Jackson Week 18. This team still needs somebody to get the job done on the outside, though. I mean, the passing attack is just so hard to watch right now. Even when they're moving the ball well on the ground, I mean, teams just know they're not going to get efficient passing attacks. So it's more so like when they run the ball and they still do it efficiently. It's really just impressive because they're breaking the grain, if you want to call it. They're working against something that people know is coming. So that's really impressive in my opinion. But then we talked about the Packers a little bit. I mean, what a game for Green Bay, and they're getting hot at the right time. They're going to be a scary playoff team, no doubt about it. Everyone's saying it. This is the team that you don't want to see in the postseason, right? So the offense is rolling at a nice clip. They've been playing as good as they have all year long. Still some work to be done, I think, but obviously Jair Alexander and Justin Jefferson, that's kind of the talk of this game, right? So Jair, followed Justin Jefferson around. I think JJ got open a couple times, but the Vikings were kind of dealt a bad, blow when it comes to offensive line injuries. We'll talk about that later on. But Jair and that secondary, they have been awesome. You talk about week 1 and 2 where there was these weird miscommunications, people not carrying receivers. There was like big, huge chunks in the zone coverage that they like to run with Joe Barry as the DC. That has certainly evaporated. This team's still a little soft on the ground, I think. But when it comes to passing against them, there is little to no room to operate. So if this is a Green Bay team that can play ahead in games, they're going to be scary in the postseason. Let's move on to the top 8 here. Vikings down a spot. Yes, I have the Vikings over the Green Bay Packers. It's about the entire season, resume. And the Vikings are still one of the top seeds in the NFC. And the Packers have a win in their end game, right? Like, let's take the entire season into context. But if you're somebody who's been saying, this point differential is the worst it's ever been for, a 12-3 team, this is the game to kind of point out. You look at the Cowboys blowout, you look at the Eagles blowout, and then you look at this week against the Packers, and it's like, when this team sees real competition, they shrivel up and die. But this is also a team that, beat the Bills in Buffalo, in a one-score game. So they have some legit wins under their belt too. So, variance can be one thing, but I think it's just a rough week for Minnesota. And again, kind of talking about what I alluded to just a moment ago. When you're talking about backup, tackles, that's always just a bad place to begin. But third string centers that you're basically having to run on, first sound, or you're going on one. When the broadcast is talking about it, the defense is knowing it. Yeah, I mean, the other side of the ball is well aware of that, deficiency in the offense. So yeah, and once the defense knows they're going on one, I know when I can get off the ball. So yeah, that's a killer blow, especially with a quarterback who's not that great against pressure, right? In his entire history's, career context, he's not been very good against, pressure. And, Justin Jefferson did have the worst week of his season, which is disappointing. But, yeah, I mean, bad week for Minnesota, but now they get a chance to bounce back against Chicago, and that feels like the exact right team you want to have a bounce back game against before you close out the regular season. Chargers flip places with them. They dominated the Rams. I mean, they were just the better team. Mike Williams, the whole thing was working, really. The run game, Herbert looks great again. The defense continues to play really, really good football. So, Brandon Staley's got this team heading in the right direction. And then 1 through 6 is not going to change. Maybe the Eagles and the Bengals could have been flipped, but the game didn't finish last night, so I'm not going to, come to any, sort of assumptions just because the Bengals were up 7-3. Also, Philadelphia, I have a hard time thinking they're not going to play Jalen Hurts in Week 18, considering it's when you get the 1 seed, at least for a half, right? They could even do something they've done basically all year where they dominate in the first half, coast in the second half. They might literally be able to have Jalen Hurts play one half, get a big enough lead, sit in the second half unless things get interesting. And then he's got, a week's worth of rest going into the playoffs. But I think he's got to play. I think you got to lock up that 1 seed if at all possible. So I think we'll see him this week. So yeah, they lost, but they're also going to get an upgraded quarterback this week. So I feel like I could justify them staying at 5. Dallas, another nice win. Created a fair amount of pressure. The offense was clicking. This defense and its offense. This Dallas team in and of itself is playing really good football. So, just one of the best teams in the NFC. 49ers, same place. The defense was a little more disappointing this week. I didn't think Jared Stidham would drop 34 on the 49ers defense, but still like what D'Amico Ryans all in all is doing on that side of the ball. Nick Bosa, no sacks, but did have some important pressures in this game. And Brock Purdy, this was a big game for Brock Purdy more than anything, where it's we might see Jimmy Garoppolo in the postseason, but at this point, I don't know. I don't know if you want to mess with what's working, Chris McCaffrey, big game. Brandon Ayuk was huge on that last drive. George Kittle finds the end zone, 5 of the last 3 games. That guy's been heating up. And then you're going to get Debo back in the postseason. Yeah, this seems still very, very scary. Chiefs, again, it was a little closer than what you would have liked, right? The Broncos cover the spread, and it's a 3-point game. But both games against the Broncos were played pretty close. So, again, division game, when you take that into context, that is an important factor to weigh in, and ultimately they still got the job done. So, give them credit there, they'll stick it to. And I'm gonna have the Bills staying at 1 again. Monday Night Football game did finish. That was poised to be an awesome game, and even just the start of it had me hyped up. But, I'm going to keep Buffalo there at 1. And again, prayers up for Damar Hamlin. That, again, one of the scariest things, if not the scariest thing I've ever seen on a football field in my 25 years of living on this earth. But that's going to do it for my Week 18 NFL Power Rankings. Tell me what you think. How do you have the top 10 shaking out? Who's your favorite team? Where should they be sliding in at? Who do I have too high? Who do I have too low? Who moved too much? I'd love to have any sort of thoughts you might have. Any football you want to talk, let's talk about it down below in the comment section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you're around here and want to see more football content, especially draft content, we'll be ramping that up heavy over the next couple of months. Be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. But until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.